Well, good afternoon. It is June 1st. June 1st should be a lot warmer, but we are in Montana. So it's been pretty chilly all morning. I've waited till this afternoon to do the Three Sisters gardening. I'm going to go ahead and plant the corn because I want to get that started. And this is where it's going to go. Okay, so if you recall one of my earlier videos, I prepared this and I had it tarped all this time so that the weeds wouldn't grow. Now, to continue with Three Sisters gardening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig out those ditches a little bit more here. And I'm going to go ahead and plant the corn. I think it's going to be close enough. And I've been soaking the seeds. Now, if you're not familiar with the Three Sisters gardening, it's a very ancient Native American planting method that they used all the time. So what they would do, just to give you a brief overview, you plant the corn first, and when it comes up about 4 inches, then you can plant your pole beans around them. The beans will grow up on the corn, and they'll support the corn in case there's big winds, because you know, corn doesn't have a very deep root system. It's all the energy is growing up into the leaves, and those leaves are what give the corn stalks the opportunity to grow. They get their nutrients from the leaves. So you want to have good tall stalks, but you don't want them blowing over in the wind. So the pole beans will grow up around them and give support to the beans. Also, beans bring in the nitrogen, and the nitrogen will help to feed the corn. The corn is a heavy feeder, needs lots of nitrogen. Okay, and then the third part of the gardening process for the Three Sisters is the squash. The squash is going to go along and it'll spread out and give you a nice ground cover and keep the weeds from growing. So also it holds in the extra moisture so that you don't have to water as much. So anyway, I'm going to get to work on that a little bit. And there's Lucky. He's already had a lot of exercise. He's all tired out, so he'll probably hang out here and watch. So let's get growing. I forgot one other thing I was going to say about the corn. The earth temperature should be 60. Corn likes hot weather. We're not getting very much hot weather here, so I'm just taking my chances, and I'm really hoping for the best. And I'm going to go ahead and plant it because I think the soil temperature is probably about 50. You want it to be at least 55 to 65 before you plant your corn. And they are really a hot weather crop, but we're just going to hope for their best. Okay, so we're growing heirloom corn seeds, non-GMO, so it should be pretty good corn. Should see germination in about 7 to 10 days, depending on how warm it is. I've pre-soaked these seeds. They've been soaking now for about 8 hours, which is a good amount. That way the kernel can fill up. You know, it's totally dried out, obviously. But this way it gives it a little bit of a head start. It can fill up with the moisture that it may or may not get from the soil. I'm going to make sure it's good and watered, and the ground here is pretty moist because we've had a lot of rain. And I'm going to plant this a little bit differently because I want to make room for pole beans on either side. So I'm going to place 4 seeds like this and give a little bit of distance in between. And then once these corn seeds, the plant comes up and we've got about 3 to 4 inches, I'll go ahead and plant the pole beans. the pole beans will grow pretty rapidly, so you don't want to plant them at the same time as your corn because they're going to grow faster than the corn and shade out the corn. The corn needs lots of sunlight, so you want to make sure it gets a really good start so it can grow nice and tall. So that's why we'll wait to put the pole beans in. And I think I'm going to go ahead and put the squash plants out because it'll be a while before they actually spread. And I want to plant them up against here because that'll provide them with a little bit more warmth. And then hopefully they'll spread out that way. Some of them may climb up here, but that's the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and plant these seeds. See how far they go. I'll start here in this middle section. Normally, in a normal spacing, you would plant these corn seeds about 6 inches apart from one another, or if you have a high bed with really good fertilizer, you can plant them 3 inches if you're going to do a little bit more intensive gardening. But since I'm doing the Three Sisters gardening, I want to put them about 4 inches in a cluster like that. I'm going to put a rock there so I remember where I started. And then I'm just going to go down about every 12 inches. 1, 2, 3. And you want to plant them 1 to 2 inches deep. By the way, this is a saving grace for me, having this stool with wheels. I can go right along in between my rows here, which is where I'm going to deep water, and saves on the back. Oh, the other thing when you're planting corn, you want a good fluffy light soil so that those roots have a fair enough chance to go down in there. Corn is pretty fast growing. Once it gets going, it's gonna do really well. We're going to have plenty of corn seeds, and it was a good decision to plant. This soil is really nice and warm, so if you're in Montana, I think that it's going to be pretty safe to plant it. Just feel your ground and see how warm it is. If it's warmer than the air, it's going to be okay, and this is. So I'm noticing a lot of ants in here too, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them will disappear with the heavy watering, which I'm going to do next. Even though the soil is good and moist, the ground is good and moist because we've had so much moisture over the last couple weeks. It's going to help to eliminate those ants. And there's so many seeds in here, there's no way those ants could carry away all of the corn seeds. Okay, so I've got 2 rows. I'm going to plant down there, and we'll see how far these seeds go. When I have established plants like these acorn squash plants, I like to dig my hole, put a little bit of trifecta soil enhancer in there, mix that up good, That way I know where those roots are going. It's going to be real good and moist. You want to make sure those new roots are protected and get them in there right away. You can just loosen them up a little bit, but not too much. Put them in there, cover them good. Pack it down just a little bit, just to make sure there's no air pockets around those roots. And then give it another good watering. Now we just let nature run its course. Of course, we'll babysit it along the way too. So there we have an acorn squash, which is going to be our ground cover to eliminate a lot of weeding later on in the season, hopefully. So by the way, these are nice plants which I got from Marcia's greenhouse off of Mill Creek Road in Sheridan, Montana. Beautiful place to get all your garden goodies. So just as an experiment, I decided to divide this one. Oh. We'll see if we notice any difference. Well, thanks for watching. I think we'll call it a day. There's another video, if you go to my description, a link to when I first started this Three Sisters gardening, and also I'll have some links to some other good references. But if you like squash and you like beans and corn, this is the way to go. It's not only good for your soil, the plants all do so much better. So this is my first opportunity to actually do this Three Sisters gardening. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of results we get. Well, if you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please leave a message in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you, and it'll be helpful for other people too. Maybe you have more experience with this approach to gardening. Anyway, organic gardening is the way to go, and this year with prices skyrocketing in the year 2022, I think we're all going to be glad that we have gardens. I ordered my pressure cooker, my canner. I got an electric water bath canner coming, so I'm getting ready to put some food up. So let's just hope we get a little bit of warm weather here in Montana. Well, enjoy your day and happy gardening, and let's get growing, everybody.